Welcome everyone to Energy Benchmarking 101, what works, what doesn't, and why. We are very excited to have you all here today. This was our biggest webinar registration so far. About 70 people join us, or hopefully will join us today. Letting you all know that this is being recorded. The slides and links will be available after this presentation. So if you have to duck out, or if you know someone that was unable to join us, please pass it along to them. Before we get started, I would like to thank our supporters. This work would not be possible, nor would I be here without their wonderful and continued support. So we want to appreciate them. And we also want to appreciate our statewide and silver supporters of the Lansing 2030 district. And if you attend this webinar and need to get in touch with any of these groups, please let us know. That is part of our job. We are happy to connect you. And finally, we always love to appreciate the Michigan Green Building Collaborative supporters who really, truly, our work would not be possible without their help. So we are so happy for them to support us in this work. Many of you probably know me by now, but if you don't, my name is Audrey Whaling. I'm the program manager for the Lansing 2030 district. I'm happy to be here, and we have a lot to cover today. We're going to talk about energy benchmarking, what it is, why it's important, common mistakes, how to use the data. So we have a lot to cover, so we'll keep going. But before they do that, I want to let the panelists introduce themselves, and we're excited to hear from them. So Hardy, I'll start with you.
Sure. Thanks. Hey, everyone. My name is Hardy Miani. I'm working as Energy and Decarbonization Project Manager with Baumann Consulting. I'm based in Chicago and working with Baumann for almost 4 years now, and in the industry for almost 9 years. I majorly work on commissioning, retro-commissioning, and energy audit projects across the United States.
Thank you, Hardy. Kristen.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Kristen Chetin. I work at Michigan State University in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I'm also the director of the ITAC, or Industrial Training and Assessment Center. It's a Department of Energy funded center supporting manufacturing and commercial buildings throughout the state. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Emma.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma Herbanis, and I'm an associate on the Building Codes and Policy team at the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, or MEEA. We're located in Chicago, but do work across the region. Audrey also flagged that some people are putting in the Q&A that the chat is disabled.
Oh dear. Stand by, please. Thank you very much for that. Oh goodness, chat. So sorry about that. Okay, let's try that now. Excellent. Thank you so much for flagging that, Emma. I really appreciate that. It is a team effort here today. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yay. I was like, wow, the chat is surprisingly silent this morning. Thank you, Emma, so much. All right. We'll keep going. Really appreciate that. So moving on, just a quick recap what the Lansing 2030 district is. We are building a network of building owners, businesses, professionals, community stakeholders, and everywhere in between, folks who are circled around reducing energy and reducing emissions in the built environment. And so that we can create greater community vibrancy, a high-performing building district, and economic growth in the city of Lansing. Before we get too far into our event here, I'd like to ask you all, what kind of building stakeholder are you? You should see a poll in front of you. Asks you perhaps if you own a particular kind of building, or if you are a particular kind of stakeholder, or if you're just interested to learn. Looks like we've got some professional service providers. That's great. A number of folks who manage a commercial building. That's wonderful. And I'll give it about a couple more seconds, everyone to get their answers in. All right. So we are looking at the results indicating that we've got a number of service providers here, as well as commercial building owners. A number of individuals who are just interested in this topic. That's great. We're happy to have you. And then we have one more poll to look at. Are you currently energy benchmarking? Perhaps you don't know what that means. Perhaps you're an expert. Perhaps you're somewhere along the middle. Just like to get a feel for how much knowledge our audience has. Excellent. Looks like we've got some folks mostly in the middle, have maybe a little familiarity with what energy benchmarking is. A couple more seconds to finish this. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. And it looks like in the middle. So some good information available for everyone today, and some folks who are new to the topic. So again, we're happy to have you here. All right. A couple of acronyms before we go forward. Don't worry, I'm not going to read all of these, but I did want to call out a few of them. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager, or ESPM, or Portfolio Manager. That's the tool we are currently using to capture our data and benchmark. We know that there are lots of conversations, lots of questions, some concerns about the tool, about the longevity of the tool, about the use of it. But as we understand it, the funding is available through the end of the year, and we will know more information by the end of this month. So at the moment, we're going to continue forward and using it. It is still a very powerful and useful tool. We do have collaborators and others who are seeking alternatives, who are looking into possibilities should the tool go away. But for now, we're going to continue to use it. Another piece on here is weather normalized. That accounts for hotter or colder years, for example. Weather normalized is the amount of energy your building would use in a normal year. We understand that normal is starting to vary wildly, but that's a calculation that we use for that. Additionally, energy use intensity, you'll see here on some of the other slides, that's the total energy use per square foot per year. And there's a couple of other notations here for measurements. CCF is centim cubic feet, and then kilowatt hours, I think most of you are familiar with. Again, these slides will be available, so should you need to refer to some of the acronyms or terms, they'll be available for you to do so. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Kristen, and she's going to take us away.
Great. Yeah. So again, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to kick this off with trying to give an analogy to try to think about for those of you that are a little bit less familiar with energy benchmarking. Hopefully this can then help kind of understand the idea around this. So I'm a professor, so this is maybe the best way that I can think about this. Big classroom of students, like some of the classes that I teach. Every student performs a little bit differently. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but in the end, you're evaluating them in some way. So if you go to the next slide, right? For example, we give them an exam, right? Or we give them some kind of a test or quiz to determine how well they're doing. And everybody gets a little bit different grade. And that's normal, and that distribution of things is what we typically see. And so that's very similar to how we're thinking about this in terms of energy benchmarking. So take those people and replace them with buildings that are, let's say, in a city. So if you go to the next slide. Here we go with, a layout of a city of some sort. So pretend instead those students are buildings, right? And buildings each perform a little bit differently. They all consume energy. Maybe it's from different sources. Maybe it's from natural gas. Maybe they have solar panels. So depending on what it is, right? They all consume energy. And we need to then think about how do we evaluate their performance. So go to the next slide. Now, each building, in terms of energy benchmarking, the result is giving them some kind of a grade, if you will. And it might not be a letter. It could be different things depending on what kind of a measure you're using. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, the idea is to say, okay, I have this building. How well is it performing? Is there opportunities to make it more efficient? And that score or that grade allows you to help think about how much of an opportunity there is. So go to the next slide. So just as an example, and there'll be another slide to talk a little bit about kind of broad range of different ways that this is done. But for example, in New York City, all buildings that are above a certain size have a energy benchmarking requirement. And so each building collects data on its energy use and they receive this grade, if you will. And that helps all of those buildings to be able to understand and compare to each other in a single location to get an idea, how is my building performing to everybody else around me? And again, how is there opportunities to try to see if I can make that better to my benefit, right? Lower costs. So next slide. So, and just to kind of emphasize this even more, let's say we have two buildings that are in the same location, building 1 on the left, building 2 on the right. If my score for building 1 is a little bit higher or better, right? My grade in terms of energy benchmarking is a little bit higher, then I'm going to have lower energy use in general and lower utility bills, which is a good thing. So that score helps me figure out if what spectrum I'm on. So go to the next slide. In terms of how common this is, there's many different places that do this different ways. The ones that are highlighted here in the various colors are places where we see this more commonly. And in some places, it's something that you see more broadly, like you see in California, you see it quite a bit. We have a few places in Michigan, but overall, this is something that's kind of broadly thought about across the country. And there's some links there at the bottom if you're interested. Go to the next slide. So how is this done? First, we need to gather some basic information about your building. So your utility bills is really the core of that. So whatever you're using in terms of consuming energy, whether that's electricity, natural gas, or something else, you need to get all of those together for at least a year so that you can understand what your energy use is across that time. Then you need some basic information about your building, depends on how you're using the building, but things like where is it located, what's the size of the building, maybe when it was constructed, how many hours is it operated, how many people are there, depends on the kind of building you're talking about, but overall, some basic information about how your building operates, or at least estimate of those things. And then go to the next slide. And then we need to calculate this benchmarking metrics. And there's different ways and different types of metrics we see, but the most common we call energy use intensity. And that helps us to calculate, or at least the basis of calculating this score that we can use to benchmark or compare with other buildings. So go to the next slide. So how do we calculate this? We need our electricity combined all for the year. We need our natural gas use for the year, and those units were just mentioned earlier in terms of what this is, but kilowatt hours for electricity and CCF for 100 cubic feet per year. And we need to combine those together into common units so that we can calculate this total. So go to the next slide. So you add them together, determine this energy use by dividing by the total building area, gives us an energy use intensity, and that's the starting point for helping with this evaluation. So it helps us to compare for similar types of building uses, maybe similar climate conditions. How does our building use energy, and is it better or lower energy use, or higher or not quite as good? So next slide. And then this is just a kind of a visualization. So this was at university where they tried to visualize it. But the idea here is that you can then look at a bunch of different buildings around the area and get an idea, is your building kind of on the lower end or more efficient building, or higher consumption, so a little bit lower efficiency. And again, just to help you understand how you compare and if there's potential opportunities to improve. And I'll pass it to the next one.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for that high-level overview. Have Emma jump in.
Yeah, so I'm sure all of you for signing up for this, you're already interested in benchmarking your buildings, but I'm going to try and make sure that you're interested in it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the why it's important to be benchmarking. So I saw some people from Board of Water and Light on here, so apologies that I called this junk mail, but for a lot of people it might be. If you pay your bills automatically or online, this might be kind of a nuisance for you, but it's really can become a tool if you know how to interpret the data or just input it to a tool that will kind of help you interpret it for you. Let's move to the next slide. Benchmarking is found to have energy and money savings, and this can happen even without capital improvements. This is because when you're tracking your energy use, you might just automatically think to reduce it or unconsciously do it. Some people say it's kind of like when you wear a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. If you notice you aren't taking a lot of steps in the day, you might try and increase that. It's like that. You're trying to increase the performance of your building. And these dollar savings are coming from the fact that we know that the cheapest type of energy is the one that you do not use. And that's where some efficiency piece comes into it. In addition, the way that you can save or make money is because having an Energy Star score, which comes from that portfolio manager tool, can increase the property value in addition to utility bill savings. For the next slide. Another benefit of benchmarking is that it's going to help you to get to know your buildings better. Again, if you're moving from just automatically paying your bills and not paying much attention to it to really looking into that data and understanding the energy use of your building, it will help you to improve them. So we say you can't manage what you don't measure. Again, that's just helping to get a better idea of what's happening in those buildings. So a lot of times these energy savings that come from benchmarking are not on behalf of capital improvements. It's more behavior changes for those small efficiency savings. But if you're tracking your energy use and decide you do want to make capital improvements, benchmarking can help you identify the highest bang for your buck areas in your buildings or portfolio. Additionally, from looking at this data more, you may be able to identify errant utility meters or utility billing issues and be able to solve those. Next slide. So Kristen talked about this a little bit, but just because of the benefits of benchmarking, communities are really maximizing this and making it required. So we saw the map of the US, but here is in MEEA's 13-state Midwest region. I believe there are some 15 or 16 required benchmarking ordinances. And this is encouraging and requiring building owners over a certain size to benchmark and report their energy use. And this is because it does have benefits for the buildings, but also then the greater community in terms of lower carbon emissions, increased job opportunities, and economic development, things like that. So hopefully that showed you a snapshot of some of the benefits of benchmarking.
Thank you so much, Emma. And I do want to call out that simply evaluating your bills and perhaps what's going on with them can be a really great tool. We have a member who was able to shift some of their processes and ultimately save almost $100,000, I believe, in energy. So just evaluating it, taking some time to look at what's happening can be really helpful. So now I'll pass it to Hardy.
Yeah, so we learned about grading the students in their classroom as well as scoring the buildings based on their energy performance. But what if the data that is provided itself is wrong? Now let's first understand what is the impact of inaccuracy of data and how does it impact the overall goal of the project. So for that, let's go back to the history in the 15th century. So back in 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean in search of finding a new route to Asia. However, he relied to incorrect calculations that was developed by the Persian geographer Alfranegus, and he failed to convert from Arabic miles into Roman miles. So this incorrect data led to wrong estimate about the Earth's circumference. So instead of going to Asia, he landed in America. So this miscalculation from Columbus led to a big mess for him to find the actual route to Asia. Now coming back to the 20th century. So this is back from 1998. So NASA launched a Mars orbiter mission. This was more sort of a mission to understand the Martian climate and to understand how the climate is and whether there is a life on the planet of Mars or not. But there was a small critical software glitch where the software did not convert the metric system, due to which instead of landing on the surface of the Mars, the satellite itself got disintegrated in the Martian atmosphere. So this small mistake by the scientists led to a loss of almost $193 million. So this is like a small mistakes, like how inaccuracy of data impacts the overall performance and the end goal for the project. Something similar is applicable for buildings as well. So all the Energy Star score that we get for our property is based on the data that we provide. That includes the utility bills, the square footage of the property, and all the other information. But if we provide the wrong data, you won't be getting a clear result about how your building is currently performing as compared to others. So now let us dive into a few case studies based on like what are the common mistakes that people usually tend to make while benchmarking their property. The first mistake that people commonly tend to make is not reporting all the meters. So usually for any property, we generally tend to have a natural gas meter, electric meter. So usually, depending upon the size of the property, you could have multiple electric or natural gas meters. In order for you to get a clear understanding of how your building is performing, first thing that we need to understand is to ensure like we are reporting all the meters that are serving for that property. There are multiple ways to get that information. One way is to directly reach out to the utility. Depending upon the meter number that you provide, you will be getting all that information from the utility itself. There could be a scenario where you are getting few fuel sources in terms of like diesel for backup generator or oil that can be used for different purposes, which is not metered. So in that case, it is very important for you to document those like the annual usage for your fuel sources and accurately importing that data into Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Next slide, please. Second common mistake that people usually tend to make is not reporting all 12 months of utility data. Sometimes we tend to forget to enter for a particular month. So Energy Star helps to provide. So whenever you tend to miss out on a particular month, you will be getting a notification like you are not reporting all 12 months of data. Without providing all 12 months of data, you won't be getting an Energy Star score for your property. Next is preparing proper metric system. As we learned from the NASA's case study, like if you don't use a proper metric system, you are not providing a clear data for the Energy Star Portfolio Manager to understand how your building is performing. So there are multiple unit systems that are being used in the industry. In terms of electricity, it is measured in kilowatt hours. For natural gas, it is either measured in therms or CCF. For water, it is in gallons. So whenever you are importing any data from your utility bills into Energy Star Portfolio Manager, always ensure that you are selecting a proper metric system when importing your data. Next is reporting a wrong square footage. So this is again referred to the thing that we need to put into Energy Star Portfolio Manager is the gross floor area for the property. So gross floor area includes the summation of all the total enclosed floor area that is measured from the exterior of your property. This could also include all the office space. It could include the stairways, the mechanical room. The only thing that it gets excluded is all the unenclosed area. That includes the open parking lots, the roof deck, or any certain mechanical spaces that are open to the atmosphere. So this is very important. So there are multiple ways you can get the actual gross floor area for your property. That can be from the as-built drawings that you could potentially have when you constructed your building, or it could be from the field verified surveys, or if you have done any energy audit for your property. So that is another way to get that information. If you don't have any of your drawings, another way to get that estimate is from the Office of Tax Revenue. Usually they tend to have the actual gross floor area for your property. So it is very important to ensure like you are providing actual GFA square footage for your property, because at the end, this will be used for estimating the EUI for your property. Next. Another major mistake that people tend to make is not selecting proper space type. Like for spaces like that are 100% commercial buildings, but if they have any retail space on the ground floor, it is not considered as a 100% commercial office building. So one way to look into this thing is to always have understand what is Energy Star looking for in terms of the square footage for the property. Like if you have a retail space in the building, you can potentially exclude that from the total square footage and not clearly identify that in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Next is occupancy. Since COVID, there has been a lot of change in the occupancy. Though the building could be 100% leased, but it is only 50% occupied. So depending upon how the building is currently occupied, this needs to be updated in order to get an accurate estimate of how your building is currently performing. So one way to update that information is going into the details tab and updating the occupancy depending upon how the building is performing on a monthly basis. That will help you to get a correct understanding of the performance of your property. Next is for the commercial office building. So for specifically for commercial office, Energy Star usually tends to look into the weekly operating hours, the number of workers who are working in the main shifts, the number of computers that you have in the building, percentage of the property that is being cooled. If you see on the left side, there are few star marking. All the data that is marked as star is considered for calculation for your Energy Star score. So if there is a place where you haven't provided any of your data, it won't be as calculating Energy Star score for your property. So it becomes important for anything that is marked in star to provide those data in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Next is looking into the multifamily buildings. So usually in multifamily buildings, most of the time that we come across is the people are not reporting the number of bedrooms correctly. So the thing that Energy Star takes into consideration is the number of living units, the number of living units that is in the low rise, mid rise, and high rise building. So low rise for Energy Star is referred to any building that is between 1 to 4 stories. Mid rise is 5 to 9 stories, and high rise is 10 or more. It also considers the number of bedrooms. So there are multiple ways to get the number of bedrooms. It could be from the rent rolls. It could be from the drawings that you could potentially have for your property. But always remember, like if you have a 2-bed and 3-bed units in your property, the number of bedrooms will always be exceeding the number of units that you have in the building. So that is one check that you can potentially do. Next. Next, coming to the hotel. Over here, Energy Star takes into consideration the gross floor area, the number of rooms, the number of workers in the main shifts, the cooking facilities, the number of commercial kitchen appliances, and percentage of the area that is heated and cooled. So most of the times that we see, like the property managers are not reporting the exact number of guest rooms in Energy Star Portfolio Manager or the number of workers. So the one way to avoid this is looking into the floor plans to count the number of guest rooms that you have in the building. Confirming the number of workers, that is by reviewing the payroll. So this is again something that you can internally coordinate with your financial team. Counting the number of commercial refrigerations units. Again, this is based on the asset tree that you could potentially have for your property. So there are multiple ways to keep a track on this. Next is vacant space. There have been quite a few buildings that are now vacant after COVID, or those properties that have got impacted because of the recent advancement in the AI. So it is very important to ensure that if a particular building is vacant, it is properly being reported in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. That includes the number of workers, the number of hours of operation, and the number of computers are placed at 0. So again, there are multiple ways to look into it. Is looking into the statements and records of the vacant versus occupied spaces from the property administrator, and potentially doing a site visit to understand the number of areas that are vacant in the building. Next is data center. So data center over here doesn't refer to having a small closet in the building. Data center over here is intended for sophisticated computers and servers that functions. That includes a high density computer equipment. Anything that is greater than 75 kilowatt of demand is considered as a data center. If you have a dedicated cooling system specifically for that area, if you have a UPS system and you have a raised flow. So this data center type is not specifically for if you have a computer training session or telecom closets. Those are not considered as a data center in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Next. Retail stores. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager defines retail store as anything that applies as an individual store that is at least 5,000 square feet and sells non-food consumer goods and has an exterior entrance to the public. So common errors that we usually tend to see is a standalone property like coffee shop, dry cleaners, and key repair shops. Those are considered as either restaurant or service area, but not as a retail store. Unnecessarily breaking out the space. If an office building includes a small gift shop on the first floor, entire property should be considered as an office space. So Energy Star has a particular requirement, like how much is a minimum percentage requirement for you to consider an additional property into the building. So the ways to avoid is looking into the floor plan, measuring like what is the actual square footage of those small stores as compared to the total area of the building. If it is less than 10%, that is something you can potentially avoid while reporting in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Next. So these are some of the common mistakes that we saw based on some of the projects that we have worked across the United States. But there are a few other ways that we could potentially avoid making mistakes. That includes, going to the next slide, running a data quality checker. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager has an option where you could potentially run an internal data quality checker. There is an option to check for possible errors. So Energy Star will automatically run a data quality checker on its own to verify whether you have provided all the information that it needs in order to calculate the Energy Star score or to calculate the EUI for your property. That includes whether you have provided the gross floor area, whether you have provided 12 months of utility bills, whether you have included the number of operating hours, the number of workers for your property. So data quality checker will take a look into all the information that is available and provide you with a feedback if there is any information that is missing for your property. Next. So what if you don't understand how to benchmark your property, or you have already benchmarked your property, but you want to get it verified? So that is a place where benchmarking data verification comes in place. So this is more of a process to enhance the quality of the data being reported collectively into the benchmarking system. Again, this is something that can be done and verified by someone who is having a professional engineering license or certified energy manager or having a building energy assessment professional certification. So the role of the verifier is to confirm whether all the information that is provided in Energy Star, whether it is complying with the benchmarking guidelines for that location or not. Whether you have provided all the property information, that including the gross floor area, the 12 months of utility bills, and whether we are providing all that information in Energy Star or not. And the last thing that can be done is, so Energy Star, if you go into the reporting tab in Energy Star, they also have a data verification checklist that can be kept as a benchmark to understand whether you have provided all the information that is required for you to calculate the Energy Star score for your property.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hardy. That was a lot, I know. And again, as we mentioned, these slides will be available after this presentation as be a pretty straightforward guide for folks to check out how they're doing on their energy benchmarking. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand this back to Kristen.
Great. So depending on what you're interested in related to results from benchmarking, one of the things that you can take this energy data and results and do with is you can take it and translate it into an estimated emissions associated with your building operations. And so if you look at this as an example where I left off before I passed it to Hardy, right? The energy use, the natural gas use, whatever other sources of energy use you have, you can determine what factors to use to translate that energy use into something that estimates your emissions. So that's what we're going to talk about here for a few minutes. If you move on to the next slide. So most buildings that we're probably talking about or looking at here have electricity and natural gas as their sources of energy. So that's what I'm going to speak to. But if there's others, the same thing can be done for any other source of energy. So take your 12 months of electricity bills, your 12 months of natural gas bills that you use to calculate your energy use intensity or used for benchmarking. And now we'll take some factors that we use to evaluate what that turns into in terms of emissions. So if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so let's think about electricity first. So with electricity, if you think about where electricity comes from, there's sources of electricity production all over the place on the electric grid from many different types. There's renewable energy sources, there's natural gas plants, there's coal plants, there's lots of different things. So every part of the country has a little bit different mix of these things. And so when we're trying to take your electricity consumption and convert it into something associated with emissions, every different part of the country is a little bit different here. So if you can keep going or click one more time, maybe. And then one more, just so we have it all in this. Yeah, here. So if you think about the US on the left-hand side, you see it's broken up into different regions. And this is based on the EPA's power profiler. So it's what we commonly use to evaluate this. So Michigan is a part of several different regions we call within this. And the most of the Lower Peninsula is considered in one region. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. But on the right-hand side, you see the distribution of sources of electricity production in these like vertical stacked charts. So the one on the left is for national average. So you can see the distribution is biggest portion is from natural gas. We have nuclear and coal, secondary, followed by wind and a few others beyond that. So this is our national average. So if you're not necessarily thinking about a particular location, you can use this national average value to convert it into an emissions factor. If we're going to try to focus on Michigan, since I'm guessing most people that are on the call here are in Michigan, if we're looking at the Lower Peninsula, you can see the distribution is pretty similar to what we have in the US overall, but a little bit different. So there's factors associated with this, and the one on in the blue box on the right is for CO2 emissions. That's the factor that you use, or the most recent one for this area of Michigan. So we can convert our megawatt hours or kilowatt hours to megawatt hours and determine the pounds of CO2 emissions associated with that. So that's what we see here. So that's electricity. And then natural gas is a little bit easier. We generally just have a single factor, single metric we use to convert it. So there's two of those here. These are also from the EPA. And then there's also a calculator, right? So if you don't want to do the calculations yourself, you're welcome to use any number of different calculators that are available. The one that we're referencing here is from the EPA. The link is at the bottom there. And on the next slide, there's an example of what you see in terms of output. If you go in the next slide. So you can enter your information into here from your building consumption, and it will convert it into, in this case, you have carbon dioxide equivalent emissions, as well as a broad range of other ways to think about this if it's easier. So you think about it in terms of use of a vehicle, or a number of other things. So anyway, if that's helpful, there's plenty of calculators that are out there. It's just one as an example. So.
Thank you very much, Kristen. And I shared some of the links that Kristen referenced on her slides in the chat. Again, these will all be available afterwards. And I just popped the EPA GHG equivalency calculator in there as well. Emma.
Awesome. So I think I'm going to round us out in terms of content about benchmarking. But at this point, I'm sure you're curious about who actually does this process. So a lot of times we see this done by facility or property managers for a building or a company, other administrative staff, or the building engineers. However, in general, this can be done by almost anyone with access to the building's utility data, in addition to some of that information about the building, like square footage and construction date, things like that. I will note that if you're using Energy Star Portfolio Manager, that can be shared with multiple people on the same account, so it does not have to be just one person doing this. However, I will say that this requires just a few hours of gathering, organizing this data, and then entering it per year for a building. Additionally, I'll note that this doesn't always require you to, have your physical bills and keep them for a year and then enter them. A lot of times the utility can either automatically process that data and put it into the tool, or give you data for a certain period that you request it from. I'm less familiar with how that works in Lansing, so Audrey might be the person to answer questions about. But in addition to that, it's not like there are multiple ways to do it. Some people prefer to sit down every month and look at their bill and manually enter it. And some people, or more so people who are required to do it with those municipalities that have policies, will find that it's much easier for them to automatically insert that data into it and then kind of more look at the analysis that portfolio manager will shoot out for them to look at. So overall, the goal for it is not to be overly burdensome, and it really is supposed to be a tool for you to use and turn this data that you might not be using into actionable data. Next slide. So there are, as you can see from this call, lots of folks who are happy to help people benchmark, in addition to lots of tools that exist out there. So I just wanted to shout out some tools that Energy Star has. And I don't know if anyone mentioned this already, but I'll say Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a completely free tool, and is going to stay free as far as we know. Yeah, so this is free to use, and they also have lots of free resources that you can use. So this are a few screenshots I took from the website. This is just like the landing help page that you can see has like a glossary where you can ask questions, learning more about different features, frequently asked questions, things like that I would encourage you to check out as you go through the website. In addition to that, they have videos on how to do mostly anything that you would need to do in Portfolio Manager. I put this one on there and circled the time because I thought it was awesome that they have now clipped their videos down and you can spend 6 minutes learning how to enter your property. So like I said, it is really not supposed to be a burdensome hours-long process, just to increase the efficiency of your building. In addition to that, they also have these kind of worksheets that will show you all the information you will need to collect. So that's what this light blue one is on the bottom. You can go find your property type, and then it will tell you exactly what kind of data you should be collecting to accurately get your Energy Star score. So with that, there's lots of different tools on here. You can also always, I'm sure we'll shout out the resources at the end to reach out to people with questions, but yes, not a lack of resources for this.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much, all of our panelists. While we can't see the audience, I would like to just give a little round of applause to our panelists for all of their effort on this. We have a few minutes to ask some audience questions. These are your panelists again. There were a couple in the chat already, so I'll just pull those up really quickly. A question that was asked earlier is, what is the formula to calculate EUI of a building? It is energy, and the formula is in the chat. It is energy use intensity equals the total annual energy use divided by the gross floor area of your property. And then a follow-up question to that was, can you also tell me the conversion of gas and electric numbers to a common EUI figure? I don't know if anybody wants to jump in on that.
I don't have the numbers or the conversion factor off the top of my head, but I can pull it and share it. Just typically you're trying to get it into a common unit. And so, yeah, happy to find a link for that and share it here.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. Another question is, after EUI, what's the next or another good benchmarking calculation for comparing buildings? So some responses from Hardy included the Energy Star score, a carbon emissions intensity or CEI, and the energy cost intensity. Again, I will drop these in the chat so you all have them. And if there's any of the panelists that have additional answers that they want to provide.
I'll just say that in addition to comparing your building to other buildings, once you've been benchmarking for a while, you can compare your building's performance to previous years, which is fun. Kind of try and beat your performance from previous years based on UI or other calculations.
Excellent, thank you. And I see some good resources being popped up into the chat. There's a thermal conversion calculator and a couple of other things in there. So thank you so much for that. And then there's a question in the panelist format for the 2030, are participants entering their own data to Energy Star, or is there a third party that would be willing to do that? I will touch on this a little bit more as we get to the end of the presentation, but oftentimes there is a person with the company that is responsible for doing that. Oftentimes it's a team, perhaps. Sometimes companies do outsource it. The Lansing 2030 district, through our host organization, the Michigan Green Building Collaborative, does offer a fee for service for automated benchmarking services. Again, I'll touch on this in a moment, but we work with you to help do automatic uploads of your utility data to ESPM. So if you need to take that off your plate, essentially, please get in touch with us. Another question here: could the formula for gas and electric conversion to EUI be sent to me? I believe that is being worked on right now, Jack. Are there other questions?
Just one thing that I wanted to clarify to the audience, energy use intensity. So energy over your electricity is one form of energy and natural gas is another form of energy. So whenever you are reporting EUI, it needs to be electricity and natural gas. So you need to convert your electricity into kBTU, and you can convert your natural gas that is either measured in therms or CCF into kBTU. So the summation of that electricity kBTU plus the natural gas kBTU is the total energy for your property. If you have additional fuel sources like diesel or oil, that is also supposed to be converted into kBTU. So that total is that all the fuel sources that you have in the property that is being used is the total energy for your property. And that divided by the gross floor area is the actual EUI that you should be getting. So we don't have anything specific like EUI only for electricity and EUI only for natural gas. It is always a total summation of all the energy that you use for your property.
Thank you so much, Hardy. A couple of questions here in the panel. Does Energy Star take demand in KW into account for comparison or only KWH?
It's KWH.
Thank you. The next question: would propane used for forklifts be included in an EUI score? Great question.
Is it like inside the building or?
Let's theoretically say it's inside the building. Yes.
Yeah, if anything that is inside the building that is used for your energy consumption, that any fuel sources that is used inside your building for operating your anything that impacts the overall energy performance for your building is something that should be considered.
Thank you. Another question: do you include exterior lighting in the EUI?
If that exterior lighting is included into the energy meter, like it is part of your utility bills, it is part of your Energy Star score.
Great. Wonderful, thank you. Great questions here. And I see that there's a number of additional resources and links here in the chat. Again, we will share these with you post-event. Thank you for that comment, Emma. Water and waste can also be tracked in ESPM. Emma, do you want to say any more on that?
Not particularly, but if you're looking for a more holistic overview or look at your building's performance, or if you're trying to meet certain sustainability goals for your organization, that can be a good way to get a better look at it.
Thank you. Great question from Josh Peterson. Wondering how current Energy Star's EUI listing is. I'm not sure I know the answer to that question.
So I did not understand that question.
Josh, can you explain a little bit more? Just watching the chat. We are not unable to unmute our participants. So we can follow up with that question. We can follow up with that question with you, Josh. Just muted myself. I think Josh is trying to understand if the EUI listing, what is that reference to? Is that from 2018, 2022, 2025? When is, go ahead, Hardy.
Yes, usually that happens every 5 to 7 years. So Energy Star always updates the EUI score for the property every 5 to 7 years to benchmark whether how the building is currently performing as compared to others. I hope that answers the question. I think that is okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Any other questions before we move into wrapping up? Again, I want to appreciate our panelists. Thank you so much for all of your hard work and incredible information. I know that is a lot to take in for our audience. Do know that you can start, you don't have to do it all at once. You can start small and just evaluating your energy bills can be a really, really great place to start. So moving on through the rest of our slides, what is next? Should you be interested to connect with any of these fabulous folks or their organizations, links to their organizations are here. Our contact information will be coming up shortly. If you'd like to get engaged with them, also, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be happy to connect you all. It's part of my role in helping us to move this work forward. And as we mentioned, a little bit of a shameless plug here for the Michigan Green Building Collaborative and Lansing 2030 District. We do actually offer a fee-for-service program where we work with you and the utility to get your data directly uploaded into ESPM, and then we can help provide visualizations and set goals for you. So if energy benchmarking is something that you want to do, but you just don't have capacity or can't wrap your mind around it, please get in touch with us and we'll be happy to help you sort that out. Lastly, I just want to outline different ways to engage with the Lansing 2030 District, which this webinar was brought to you by us, for example. If you have not yet already, you are in the Lansing area and would like to become a member, please visit our website and join us. We are building a collective and network of building owners, businesses, professionals, community stakeholders, everyone to try and help reduce their energy use in the city of Lansing. If you are interested in sponsoring the district, you can directly sponsor us, or perhaps you might be interested in sponsoring a local event. We're always looking for partnerships in that way. If you have a really cool, energy efficient or a neat, innovative project or install that you recently completed or in the last several years and want to host a tour at your facility, we would love to be able to provide that for our members as well. Or attend an event. We have a number of events related to the Lansing 2030 District, as well as the Michigan Green Building Collaborative that are coming up, so stay tuned. And as always, please share your success stories with us. We have an opportunity for you to submit case studies on the Michigan Green Building Collaborative website, but we also are going to be launching a series that is called Member Spotlights next week. For the Lansing 2030 District to uplift the incredible work that's actually happening in the community by you wonderful people. And it's an opportunity for bragging rights. So please let me know if you have a story that you'd like to uplift if you are a member with us. And if not, please join us in this work. Lastly, this is all of our contact information should you want to get in touch with any one of us. Again, these slides will be available. And feel free to follow us on LinkedIn. The Lansing 2030 District has a page that we try to post regular webinar and events that are happening with our partners. For example, the City of Lansing has a workshop coming up tomorrow night. Please visit our LinkedIn to find out more about it. And as things are percolating, we would like to be able to share that with you. That brings us to the end of our webinar. I really appreciate everyone's help. I do see that there was a question coming in towards the end of this, and we can follow up with that in an email when these slides get sent out. So again, thank you all. much appreciation to all of our participants and our panelists. Thank you for all of your time and hard work and your dedication to this work. We will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.